Since I was 16, I have been really looking for a relationship with God. I really first sought God in the Jewish religion, since I was born Jewish. From that point, I started reading books about metaphysics. And I really started getting very interested in Hindu mysticism.
He was always wanting to be in relationship with me, but a long time before I had pretty much written him off. It really started in high school. I was doing a lot of just drugs and drinking and being a pothead, and I just didn't know what anything else was in life, what else to do. So I found my little niche and I got pretty good at it. I was just a big pothead, and that kind of opened up some doors for me to start selling some pot, and all of a sudden I made some connections. And before I knew it, I had found myself driving across the country, buying duffel bags full of pot, dealing with tens of thousands of dollars, and just living the crazy life that you could imagine that goes all along with it. I
had gone to India. I wanted to find a guru. I spent time in some ashrams there. I saw some supernatural things there also.
For me, it was always needed more, never satisfied. Like, I was the guy at the party at the end of the night that would keep on saying, let's smoke another bowl, let's drink another beer, let's keep on going.
I came back from India, and I moved out of Hindu mysticism and started getting interested in New Age thinking.
I never knew what I was doing. I was in like identity crisis.
I was really still involved in worldly things. I was married, I had children, I was a chiropractor. I was really seeking God. But it was really many years later that I really started to find the one true God.
My dad had always talked about God. He was a real spiritual guy. He was into the mysticism and things like that, and I thought that was cool. And I thought for myself, one day I'm gonna kind of follow that path and I'm gonna find out the truth. You know, I'm gonna travel around the world and see things like he did, because he told me stories about going to Africa and India and all over.
People were talking to me about Jesus, but initially I was really not interested at all. But after many years, I started to really feel like I ought to really check into Jesus. I met someone who became a dear friend, and she was Christian, and she was such a loving person and such a generous person. She gave me some of Andrew's tapes, Andrew Wommack's tapes, and I started listening to him, and it just started resonating. I would just hear the examples that he gave, and I just really believed that he was experiencing this, and I started to really feel I could experience God too, and I could have a relationship that he was talking about. And that really stirred me.
One thing I remember in high school was my car was in the shop, and I borrowed his car one day, and me and my friends were driving around in it, and my friend found a Bible in the back seat of his car, and I was shocked, like, what is a Bible doing in my dad's car? So when I got back home, I asked him about that, and I told him, you know, and I asked him about it, and he said,
God is real, and that Jesus is the Son of God.
And I was just totally shocked. Like, how could he have done that? How could he have sold out to some religion?
In those time periods, I was just telling him about how my life had become transformed by God's love.
He didn't get nervous anymore like he used to. And he used to have a lot of anxiety and things like that. And he just had peace. And there was something different about him. I couldn't put my finger on it.
We would still have a lot of fellowship, but he would always, we would meet for dinner or for lunch, and he would quickly want to leave.
I was always busy hanging out with my friends all the time, and you know, but I kind of felt bad for him, so sometimes I would, but I'd always be itching to get out. But after some time, it was like, I started opening up to him, and I started telling him about my life and the deal in drugs and the big, entrepreneur I was becoming, and he just sat there and he listened, and he was interested. I could tell he really cared about me.
He really started to spend more and more time with me. Instead of going in 20 to 30 minutes, we started having lunches and dinners that would last for 2 and 3 and 4 hours.
And after some time, I started sharing more of the problems, and he was just giving some wisdom. Good, he wasn't preaching at me, but I could just tell that he knew stuff I didn't know.
And he was just seemed to be fascinated by what I was talking about.
I believed him because it was my dad. I knew my dad would never lie to me, even though I couldn't totally relate. Something was really happening. I could tell something was changing, and I remember going afterwards to party with my friends and telling these wild stories. My dad's talking about seeing people's blind eyes getting opened and people getting healed, and we all just laughed hysterically, and it was all kind of fun. But to me, that something was happening. I could tell. I was starting to think about it. I was starting to think about God. I was just sitting in my living room one day, and I received revelation. I knew that Jesus was Lord, that He was the Son of God, the Bible was the absolute truth. It just came. Like I couldn't explain it. I just knew that I knew that I knew, and I was so excited about it. The very first thing that I really realized that afternoon was that God had a plan for my life. When I went to sleep that night, I remember laying down and for the first time ever, just feeling safe. For the first time ever, I felt totally secure. Like I was just laying there, looking up, just thinking, God, thank you. I slept so good that night. Next morning I woke up, just got ready for school just like normal, get in the car with my roommate, we're headed to class. We had 9 o'clock classes, and I reach into my pocket for my pack of cigarettes like I always do, and I just looked at them and threw them out the window. I don't think I'm gonna smoke a cigarette. I think I'm done with these. You know what, I think I'm done smoking pot and getting drunk. It was real, it was totally real. From that moment on, I never got drunk again, I never got stoned again. I was totally set free. After that first class, it must have been by now about 11 o'clock, so I called my dad. He was at work at the office, and I told him, Dad, I believe in Jesus.
This is a kid that I'd always loved. I had always had an emotional connection, but now I had a spiritual connection with him also.
My dad came and he bought me a Bible, and he gave me this Bible, and then he gave me probably 5 or 6 tapes from Andrew Wommack. And I never heard of this guy or anything about it or didn't know any of that stuff. He just said, this will really help you. I just started listening to those tapes, and Andrew was just, every word he said was just, yes, this is true.
He left college. He moved away from the drugs and the alcohol that he had been involved with. He came back to live with me.
I heard Andrew say that he used to read the Bible all day long, every day, that there was like a period of time, maybe when he was in the Army or something, where he just sat and the book was in front of him day and night, day and night. And so I just thought, well, what am I doing? I need to do that too. I need to read the Bible. I need to find out what it says. I need to find out who God is. This is the key to everything.
He just basically spent 10 hours a day in his room for several months just studying the Word of God.
That's what I did for about 6 months. I just listened to those tapes probably 2 or 3 a day, and then I was reading the Bible the whole rest of the time. And I was just growing and learning and going on, and it was really good.
He wanted more of a relationship with God.